Okay, here we go. Take a look at those levels there. Don't want it too hot. Yeah, I'm liking this whole streaming thing. I like how it works. I got it all set up now, so it's just a few clicks. I can go straight into it. Listen to Father Moo on the airwaves now. What's this weird little patch? That's why we came here today, to hear weird little patches, right? This one's from a series of sounds I'm quite proud of. I decided to try and not imitate, but, base on the concept of insect or bird sounds and synthesize sounds that gave a sort of similar feel. Like bird calls are not all identical, but they're very similar to one another, or they have little repeating phrases and parts. And they often have like little bits of melody or little bits of rhythm and tempo. And I'm sure, better composers than me have tried to transcribe and recreate them, but this is one of the ones I made. One of my goals is to keep both the sound quality well balanced between my voice and the synth here, but I decided to put a little bit more reverb on the synth channel, as you can see here, just so you know that what you're hearing and coming out of the Nord Micro Modular usually doesn't have any reverb. It's as dry as a bone. But my sound card is doing a little bit of work just because it's more listenable that way. Let's check a couple of the other files. This is original Insect 2. I saw quite a few of them here in this old folder. Here's original Bird 3. Does that sound like a bird to you? Maybe not. If you look closely at the sequencer here, you can see it's sometimes re-triggering depending on, there's a random pulse generator set into the reset. So sometimes it runs the first 3 steps and then it goes back to step 1 and runs to the end of it. And it's set to 56 steps, so once it finishes 16, it'll just sort of trail off. So I made other variations on these guys here. This was supposed to also be living grass. I think had something to do with, like, the sounds of bugs in a field. This one here is labeled Glass Beetle. Yeah, there we go. So the third one is kind of like a cricket, and the second one is kind of some kind of digital duck. Anyway, people probably look at this and are like, you spend all this money on synth hardware to make virtual animals that don't even sound like real animals. You could just go and get field recordings of animals. Like, I know. I just wanted to create these little synthetic worlds of creatures that don't exist. For me, that's interesting. So yeah, I'm diving into it today. I have less of a plan today. I want to make a few patches, but I don't really know what they are yet. So I'm just going to go straight in and start. That was our recap of some older patches to get us started off, but let's go back to just the raw stuff here. Part of me wants to just build something without even saying one I'm going to build, but I guess one concept I had was to just build a few little machines here, keep them as simple as possible, and then send them into the mixer and let them get processed and sent to the output. So I am going to make a little generative environment like the ones we were hearing earlier. This is my output channel. So an 8-input mixer. Gives us quite a lot of options. Send the whole mixer into the phaser, and send the phaser into the output. So why did I do that? The phaser takes up a whopping 12% or so of the processing power. So I can't afford to give effects processors to all my machines, but I do want to create the effect of motion, or I don't want it to be too dry, so I'm going to put that phaser at the end of the signal chain and then build my little mini machines with that in mind. Who's first up here? Let's do something I don't usually start with, the noise generator. I remember reading there's a lot of supposedly different kinds of noise: white, brown, pink, blue. But this one gives us white and colored. White should mean that every part of the frequency spectrum is represented equally, whereas colored is they're not equally. What am I looking for here? I want a static multimode filter. No, I don't want it to be static. One of the things in generative stuff I want to do is have it change over time. So it has to give me some kind of motion. 4.0 for a multimode filter. I think that's what I want. With the white noise generator, I'm going to be using the bandpass output. You can see I'm already trying to organize it from left to right in the columns according to my systems. See, this should be an envelope here. And basically I'm trying to pick every low resource option I have. Well, that's an AD envelope. It's probably too low resource. This first sound is just going to be a little cloud of noise. So I'm going to give him ADSR. It doesn't have much in the way of modulation of the ADSR parameters, but I don't think that's going to be a huge problem. And making a sort of pad-like sound here by drawing up the attack and release and dropping down the decay and sustain. One of the terms I use a lot is Game Boy landscape. So maybe that's as good of a title as any of what I'm building here today. Game Boy in the meaning of having a sort of lo-fi sound, and landscape meaning a generative ambient repeating but not metronomically repeating pattern, or repeating in unusual ways. I know I don't need the bit reducer, just the digitizer will be fine. I'm going to send it up higher. If we are sending white noise, even a bit of motion up here at the top end should be interesting. But I haven't started triggering that envelope yet. What we need here is a random pulse generator. That's a good one. So he gets to go in the clocking column. And send his gate over there. There we go. Now we've got some motion. I just bypassed the phaser so we can try and get the sounds right before they actually hit the phaser. this one's re-triggering too often, so I'm going to set the density lower. And I want that attack a lot slower than that. I just got to fade in on me. There we go. Fade me, baby. Your sustain level could be nice and low. Now it's just going on forever. That's not what I was going for. Gonna start doing some modulating here. Got the random generator. I'm gonna put him down here. If I had more columns, I would use them. This is sort of like the LFO zone or the control generator zone. Have him be modifying the sample rate. Most of my modulation is going to be kind of slow. Well, the filter is filtering. There we go. Now we're cooking. Can you really hear that? Let's make sure you get some volume on it. Max out the volume on the outputs. Give a little bit of resonance. I'm already at a quarter of my processing power, and I've only built one machine. So I think what you're going to see today is me reusing different machines to try and optimize the loading. So my first random generator is smooth. If you look closely here, you can see these are supposed to be smooth steps. So these are quantized into little chunky steps. So the filter should give me some of that steppy motion. Turn the speed up. Not really hearing that. What if we just turn this off for a second? So that's the filter changes I was talking about. So my first little sound here is just a cloud of noise being filtered, sent to the gate. The digitizer is totally off. Let's give him a chance to shine again. And having some of his, high end reduced by the sample rate reducer. Bit more of a cloudy, grainy feel. And drop it down a bit. Okay, who's up next? I'm going to spend my one good oscillator money on a spectral oscillator. Let's see if we can cut back his, this is attack hold. No. Let's give him just this one. I'm going to rearrange the columns a bit. This is my output zone. This is now my effect zone. So the second oscillator here is sent to the second envelope. And for now, we're just going to put him right into the mixer. We're going to need to send him some interesting pitch information. So we're going to want to quantize up key quantizer. So again, he's outputting blue content, so he's going to live down here in the blue zone. Turn on some of the notes I want him to play. That's going to give him an octave of range, so I think that's 12 steps here. And then rather than give him a new blue signal, I'm just going to take the signal from, you know what, I'm going to mix those two together, as I think I mentioned this in a previous one. Here's a control signal mixer. So I could make a new LFO for him, but I have 2 random sources here. I'm going to send one random source to here, the other random source to here, and they're mixed equally, and their output is now a new mixed up random source, which I will use to send to the pitch control of that oscillator. And I'll max him out because that's what I want him to do. He needs to get triggered. We're going to have to get some clock stuff in here eventually. How about a clock gen? And give him a little sequencer here. So you can play some notes. Send that trigger out to his gate. He should start playing soon. Connect the clock up. Interesting. Sometimes the notes are almost too fast. They're changing even within the brief time that the envelope is open. Give him some more variety by sending a random signal to spectral shape. It's always a good one. Maybe odd harmonics? It's kind of a square wavy sound. And the tempo's a bit fast for me. Maybe I'll blow another audio processor on making him sound a bit more Game Boy-ish. Don't be surprised if I decide to go back on this one. Well, I said I was just freestyling today anyway, so it's all good. I was surprised at how good this sounded. I realized it's the reverb from my sound card that I'm not used to hearing on the synth, at least in dry mode. I know what I'm going to do. This is a random step generator. I'm going to swap him out for a clocked random step generator. And make sure I transfer all his patches over. And then I'm going to clock him from the same clock source. See, those random variations are now in time with the clock. It's more pleasant to me. And I'll just delete this guy. Wow, we're getting something interesting here. So some of the sample reductions are turning my pretty notes into annoying or crushed notes. And I've actually left the quantizer on, so it's in 7-bit mode, so it can get quite down there. It's funky. So I'm liking it. I'm leaving it in this way. My phone's beeping at me. Just let this run for a second. About this. So wasn't really expecting to make something with a melodic sort of clock to it, especially since that cloud is just coming in randomly, but I think I can live with this. So rather than ruin something pleasant, it's cute doing something fun here. I wonder if my processing power will let me burn a couple of drum sounds. Maybe I'm a cheater for using the drum synth osc, but I like it. So first of all, I want my kick to be kind of like predictable. Yeah, that's where I'm hearing it. So there's the kick drum doing his job straight to the mixer. Kick 3 is a popular one. And I was about to use clocked pattern generator, but I got a better idea. I got a different idea. I don't know if I call it better. Let's clock this sequencer to the same thing, but I'm going to make him 18 steps long. Just to be crazy. So he won't really sync up with, not perfectly with the other parts. Makes it to a snare sound. Yep, I'm liking it. I'm really heading in a normal zone at this point, but well, let's look at the processing power. 71%. I can probably do at least 2 more sounds before I start running out of power. So I want to do something that's in tune so it can be playing along with the melody from the spectral osc. So I decided to make oscillator C. Ooh, that one only has sine wave. Yeah, that's okay. Let's do that. He needs an envelope. I'm going to just buy AD again. AD is so simple, but I end up using it a lot. Maybe I should be more experimental, but I don't know. For me, it's enough. And I think I'm going to put a wave wrapper in this one for variety. Somebody used a wave wrapper before, so I'm putting him in the... I don't know if it really matters I put it before or after the envelope, but this is in the wrong place. It needs to be there. This goes into the wave wrapper, into the mixer. It's our 5th instrument now. Since I have these key quantized notes, I'm gonna just make another one of those and vary some of the notes that are being allowed to pass through. Send him a different set of signals. Which one is this guy getting? By clicking the wire, I can highlight where it's plugged in so I can see its source. I think I'm going to take this one, put that in here. So they're both still stuck within an octave, but whereas this one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the white keys on the scale of C, this only has 4 highlighted. So he only gets 4 notes to choose from. Put him into the pitch input of the oscillator. And just need to trigger his gate. So this second sequencer, as we said, is 18 steps, not 16. So it won't quite line up. There you heard the first note from it. Interesting. Just a sine wave for now. Let's give him a tad of wave wrapping so he can join in the fun. pitch changes even within a single trigger from the event sequence. In other words, I told the envelope to open once, but within that time, the pitch changes twice or even 3 times before the envelope is closed again. In other words, it's not like playing a single note on a keyboard. If your pitch and your trigger are separated from each other as they are in the modular environment here. But what matters to me is it sounds cool. I'm not sure if I like the wave wrapper on it or not. Or it was better just pure. Cool. Oh, we turned the phaser off. Let's give him back. Chance to shine again. The whole mix, get that phasing on it. So again, see this one random source of clocked random generator is being sent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different inputs as a modification source. And this one is being sent to 2. I'm going to put it as a third in the phaser. It's probably harder to hear the effect the phaser is having. Give it a little bit more feedback. Spread it out over the spectrum. There we go. You can hear the white noise drop into it as well now. So it's funny, I was originally planning to have each of the little voices in this environment sing on their own clock. But once I got the sequence going and I enjoyed what it was doing, I decided to just stick with it. And I got a pretty generic or normal sounding kick and snare. But they work for me. I think I'm going to try something different here. Let's make another control mixer. It has the same inputs as the previous one. I'm going to just invert one of the outputs. Or invert one of the control sources. And send it to the velocity of the drum synth. So velocity is like velocity sensitivity on a keyboard. It means it reacts how hard you hit it. It has a pretty dramatic effect here. So now a lot of those kicks, although they're playing, let's take it out again. Same pattern is playing, but when the velocity is randomized, some of the notes are very quiet, basically too quiet to hear. Let's do the same thing to the other snare. It gives a lot more variation to when the kick and snare actually play. Well, I haven't quite run out of processing power. I'm going to give it one more OSC and see if I can get something more neat out of it. We had 2 percussion sources. Let's use a percussion OSC again. Again, this is something that can sound quite tuned. I'm going to give him clocked pattern generator. That's a good one. So he follows the same clock as everyone else. You've seen this one before on this channel. Just take a random pattern and bank, send it out, trigger the percussion oscillator. So much going on. Let's mute some of this stuff so we can hear what we're getting. So the noise is still going. This is the new instrument I just added. There isn't a lot of variation here. So let's randomize the pattern that it gets. I'm going to give him another digitizer. This is a go-to for me. I guess this is part of what I really hear as part of the sound of the synth now. Oops, that's the wrong channel. Send the percussion into the digitizer and the digitizer into the mixer. There he is. And send another random source there again. It's kind of similar to the processing that's happening on this one because they both have the same clocked random generator as their source. Since I have the power, I'm going to make another clocked random generator. So I just copied it. It's getting